podcast just on my little morning walk in the jungle. It's a little bit tough today. Had a really bad sleep, and so this is going to kind of, as I said, this is a topic that I normally wouldn't talk about, but as I said, like, I try to go with whatever's happening in my world. And so what happened last night was I woke up in the middle of the night with quite a lot of agitation, and I think all it was just my liver clearing out. And yesterday I had quite a few coffees, and that's not unusual. And I mean, the result of this wouldn't have been just yesterday. It would have been, a lot of time with caffeine and alcohol and things that overstimulate the liver. But it was just interesting because, it kept me awake for just hours, and it came on pretty strong, and then it was gone. And so on the last podcast, I talked about how sometimes we can have an emotion in us and we attract a situation based on that. And funnily enough, the last thing I was talking about was the emotion of frustration, and then I attracted an obtuse person. And so anyway, so I had this experience, and I thought, okay, really need to cut back the coffee, have a lot more, do a lot more juicing, things that clean out the system, things that add oxygen to the blood rather than low pH and waste, because low oxygen creates emotions of, it's associated with resentment and frustration, and also lethargy, lack of energy, lack of vitality. And anyway, so there's a few people here today, so I'm just trying to find somewhere where the people aren't. Anyway, so I had this experience last night, and I thought, okay, I've really got to cut back the coffee at the minimum. And I thought, okay, also, as I said, I thought, okay, juicing, things that add oxygen, things that add vitality, things that clean the system. But anyway, to bring it back to kind of my point is that, and again, this is something I don't typically talk about. I don't have the greatest diet under the sun, and not that it doesn't mean I can't share stuff about it, concepts, but also, I tend to sort of focus on psychological stuff because that's kind of my area. Anyway, but it just got me thinking that, this thing that I was talking about the other day, where I was saying that you can have an emotion in you, let's say frustration or anger or irritation or whatever, and then you can attract people. So when that emotion is in you, there'll be a tendency to attract people who are like that, or a tendency to attract situations that are reflective of that state of being. But one thing that can help that situation is basically and again, this is not the full picture, but there is a mechanical process where if you give that person a lot more juice, a lot more breath work, a lot more oxygen, a lot more fresh fruit and vegetables, less caffeine, less coffee, less processed food, less alcohol, less processed. If you give it more plants, then that person, the emotions will just naturally simmer down. And anyway, so this is just a very, very little thing, but it just kind of reminded me that there's a mechanical aspect to emotions that you can also look at and work on as well. If you're filling your body with, more water, basically more plants and more juices, and doing breath work, deep breathing, you'll naturally energize and clear out a lot of the stagnant energy. And that sort of energy that's kind of, can have negative emotions around stuckness and, frustration anger, that sort of thing. So anyway, it's just funny. I experienced that today, and now I've got someone up ahead who's going really slowly. You know, so this is how it works. So you get a little bit irritable, and then voila, the magic of the universe reflects that. So just see. Hi. Anyway, so this is going to be a short one today, but it's around, sometimes it is hard to move your emotions when you feel stuck, and a lot of the time I've done like inner child stuff to sort of help move it, but another way to do it is actually just moving it like from a mechanical point of view, which is basically using the diet and using breath. So if your emotions feel stuck, irritable, angry, one aspect to that is this. Just hang on a sec. Hi. Hi.
But then when I went to Kyo, like for the next 2 times,
I see. There's a lot of people on this walk today, irritating me. Anyway, so this is going to be all I think I'm going to say today. But actually, we'll do a little meditation on this, and this will be around being aware of kind of like the frequency of food. You know, what frequency of food are you bringing in? So this will kind of tie what I'm saying pretty well. So if you just think about what you consume on a daily basis, what you consume the most. So take a deep breath in, and what do you have that you consume a lot of? And it could be a favorite food or whatever, you know, or food you feel you should have. So just picture yourself having it and notice how your body is feeling in relation to it. One of the interesting things is if you give 100% presence to the feeling in addiction, you know, so the addiction process is like, I feel like I need this dopamine hit. Give 100% presence to that longing that you feel. Just trying to, sorry. Might have to do editing today for the first time. If you give 100% presence to the longing you feel, or the pull, when you desire that addictive thing, or whatever the desire is, it could be a good desire, just notice how it feels in your body. And if it's a negative addiction, there'll be some sort of weakness around it, or something you're trying to get rid of. So just notice that and be aware of it, and just be with it and breathe through it. And notice how you feel after. And then just picture yourself drinking water. How do you feel when you have that? Maybe the mind feels bored or whatever. Maybe it feels cleansing. But really tune into the absolute experience, the full experience of what it feels like when you're having water. And now tune into the feeling of something really healthy you have. That might have been what you were thinking of, but whatever. Just sort of tweak this as you feel. But the feeling of when you're having something and it's really healthy. What's the thoughts leading up to it? What's the feeling in your body when you have it? And really let yourself feel it. One time I went to a patch. It was a pretty difficult patch. And I became extremely present eating my salad. And it's amazing how good it made me feel. Like it was another level. I'm here in Malaysia, and almost every single person I come across is hypnotized by their phone. Like, it almost looks pathological. But this is what, everywhere I go, this is the same. So I saw the same thing in Costa Rica. It's the same thing in the West. Doesn't matter where you go. People are just hypnotized to it. But while they're hypnotized to it, everything else they're doing, they're completely missing. So the mind would say it's a waste of time. While I'm eating, I might as well do something else. But try being 100% present while you're eating and notice what the feeling you have is. Like, notice the peace that comes over. Notice how your mind goes still. Notice the enjoyment you get from it, from something so simple like eating. So today's topic is on the frequency of food, but also bringing presence to the consumption of it. Notice why you're having certain things. Noticing the feeling without judgment. If it's an addictive thing or whatever, just let yourself have that feeling and just notice it, but just be with it. So be with it the whole way. Notice the pull. Because I think that if you have an addiction, if you stay with the addictive pull the whole time and you don't deviate from it, and you just do that for a few minutes or even 30 seconds, it'll actually pass, because it's actually done what it's needed, which is actually you've experienced the craving and it's actually passed. And all it took was 30 seconds of being completely with it. And so over the week, practice being incredibly present with food, incredibly present when you're eating. Shut off all, this is just a suggestion, by the way, so just do this if you want, but this is my suggestion. Shut off all other distractions and be completely with the experience of eating that apple or that salad or whatever, or that water, drinking that water, or whatever it is. Or even if it's an addictive thing, be completely with the experience of feeling the craving and absolutely feel it up until the point you have the addiction. So try to hold. So let's say you decide to have it, but just for a minute, you're just going to feel the craving. And so instead of having the addiction straight away, you're just going to, for 30 seconds or whatever, I'm just going to sit with the addiction. I'm going to sit with the feeling of the craving and just notice what happens. And then notice the feeling when you're having it, if you do have it, and then notice the feeling after. And if you have a hangover after, in whatever way, be completely present with it. Because all addictions are running away from presence. And so the more you're present with the addictive thing, then it's actually less to run away from. And the other thing as well is that it actually creates enjoyment from something so simple, just as eating or drinking or just this basic activity. It's quite incredible. So yeah, so that's it. The frequency of food and bringing presence to consumption without any judgment about good or bad. There's a lot of judgment around food and everything, even if it's an addiction. Fuck the judgment. Just bring presence to the feeling or the craving. And it could be a little child trying to get away from something. Just bring complete presence to what that experience is and just be with it without a label or judgment. And just see how you go with this kind of like mindfulness to consumption. Noticing which foods shift your vibration, which don't. And if they don't, let that be okay too.